Jai Jagannatha, Jai Radhe, and today we can talk about the various Babas, in India, and what exactly is a Baba? What is supposed to be a Baba? What is supposed to be a Swami? What is supposed to be a sannyasi? All a guru, a sadhu. These are all definitions and terms that are usually conflated together and confused, usually. So it's a good, I think it's a good point if we can discuss about that. You want to ask any specific questions, or we keep it for later?
No, nothing is specific.
Nothing specific. Okay, so let's start. So we have a number of definitions, but a lot of people, as I said, tend to conflate and confuse them together to indicate a spiritual person. A person who is dedicated to spirituality, spiritual life, or religious life, which is not necessarily the same thing. Although there are many opinions, the beauty of Hinduism is that it doesn't have very strict dogma. Which doesn't mean that the Hindu doesn't need to believe in anything. As recently I saw people posting, Hinduism is a specific religion, a specific faith. If you don't believe in the basics of Hinduism, you cannot call yourself a Hindu just on the basis of birth, because that's for vote banks. But it's not real. If you go to a Buddhist, a Jain, a Sikh, especially now with the Khalistani, uprising, it's not happening. Or even a Christian or a Muslim, and you tell them you are a Hindu, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to agree. So I don't know why Hindutva politicians insist that these categories of people, based on their different faiths and behaviors, are supposed to be considered Hindus because they're Indians. So, that's a big problem. Anyway, religion and spirituality are connected, as we have discussed in another video. But in general, there is a basic Abrahamic based, Abrahamic concept by which we consider a very big difference between the normal lay people, which is ordinary people who have a family, work, a job, and do normal things, and a religious person, which should be some kind of priest or mullah or rabbi or someone who does not engage in ordinary, mundane material life. This is a very Abrahamic concept, which is not confirmed at all by the original, genuine Hindu Vedic idea. In fact, even a person who is very clearly engaged in family duties, professional duties, social duties, can be a very spiritual person. Actually, should be a very spiritual person, a very religious person, depending, of course, on the particular guna and karma, tendencies and practices. It's not compulsory for everyone, but there is a distinction. You know, the Hindu Vedic original system is based on the Varna, Ashrama, Dharma. So there are different Varnas and different Ashramas. If we don't want to follow the rules, okay, you know, we don't want to follow the rules. So we are an Arya. We are not exactly Hindus. We cannot call ourselves Brahmanas if we work in a job with a salary, even with a government job, because that's a big disgrace for Brahmanas. And same for Kshatriyas. Kshatriya is not a policeman that gets a salary and gets orders. That's not a Kshatriya. That's a Shudra. So the distinction between an ordinary, you know, family person and a totally spiritual religious person is found generally in the ashrama system, but that doesn't mean that a person in the brahmacharya, grihastha, ashram should not be spiritual and religious. The brahmana should always be spiritual and religious, whatever ashram they are, but the kshatriya also have to be spiritual and religious up to a point, because they are not completely in the sattvic guna and karma. Spirituality and religiosity is definitely controlled by sattva, if not by shuddha sattva, pure sattva, that is not contaminated by material identifications and attachments. Is this clear until now?
Till now.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Perfect.
So what happens is the Abrahamic concept is actually obstructing our understanding of the actual Hindu Vedic system, because we think that the one who is dressed in saffron is a spiritual religious person, unlike people, ordinary people who have a job, who have a family, etc., who don't dress in saffron. So this is again a very Abrahamic idea because the priests among the Abrahamics are distinguished by their clothes only, but their dressing only. Not so much by their behavior, because priests in Abrahamic religion can be actually very strongly materially identified, can be not renounced at all, can be very attached to sense gratification, even to criminal level sometimes. You know, we have seen priests, many priests, or anyway, you know, clergy or religious persons in Abrahamic religions actually raping people, you know, eating anything, whatever, you know, including, and giving a lot of suffering to innocent creatures, which in the Hindu Vedic system is the actual crime and sin. So it's not compatible. But the Puranas clearly say that in Kali Yuga, a spiritual person will be only distinguished by their clothes. There will not be any other different. So we find even recently, it became more and more prominent in India and Hinduism in the last few years. So we find people dressed in saffron who do a lot of business, make a lot of money, accumulate money. They have bank account, they have properties, they have lots of personal properties, and they even get into politics. Of course, considering the general level of politicians, having a good person, tendentially good person entering into politics is good for politics, but it's not good for religion. It's not good for the meaning of sannyas, the meaning of sadhu, renunciation, and Baba, and so on. So, in fact, according to the Sannyasa Upanishads and the Dharma Shastras, before Adi Shankar made some reforms, a sannyasi could not stay for more than 3 days in the same place. Of course, he could not have a house, an apartment, or a room in a fixed place. And a sannyasi was supposed to sleep under a tree or in a temple on the way, but not in a temple because they had a special room for sannyasis, because a temple doesn't have special rooms for anyone. So, the sannyasi was supposed, by traveling, stopping in the temple, taking some prasad, and sleep in the courtyard. And then before the Mangal Arti, before the first Arti of the day, sannyasi should get up, clean the place where he slept, go take bath, and take part in the attend the Arati, take prasad, and then walk away. Sannyasis were prohibited from taking disciples, from teaching anything to anyone. So they could not practice medicine, and definitely they were not supposed even to meet with not politician, because in the Hindu Vedic system there were no politics, there were no politicians. They were just government people, which means kings. A sannyasi was not supposed even to meet with the king, with a government person, not even to speak with a government person. What to speak, what to speak of getting himself into politics? If, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition reminds us when Chaitanya was pressurized to meet with King Prataparudra in Orissa, in Puri, and he repeatedly denied the request. He said, no, I'm not going to see any government person. When the Ramananda Roy's brother got into a spot of, a big spot of trouble with Prataparudra's son, and Prataparudra's son, who was not, a very dharmic person, they had a fight about something that, some horse that Prataparudra's son, the prince, had purchased, and he was not happy. So Ramananda Rai's brother was accused of stealing money from the state. So he was condemned to death. He was sentenced to death, which also was not the system, the Vedic system. But because Ramananda was a very close companion of Chaitanya, everybody was pressurizing Chaitanya to, talk to Prataparudra and ask, some leniency for the family of his companion. But Chaitanya refused all the time. He, no, let him die. What's my point? Why should I speak with a government person? This is a great disgrace for a sannyasi. The only condition on which Chaitanya accepted to meet Prataparudra was that Prataparudra went to him as a humble, ordinary man, not as a government man. So Prataparudra had to dress like an ordinary person, and he approached Chaitanya alone, without any retinue, without any photo opportunity, and very humbly he started talking about Radha Krishna, about spiritual things, not about politics. And, at that point Chaitanya agreed to meet him. So a sannyasi should not do a lot of things. Sannyasis today are doing a lot. Now, when Adi Shankar actually reformed Indian society and Indian religion, we could say that he created Hinduism, because Hinduism was already there in the form of Vedic society, Vedic knowledge, which includes yoga, tantra, the karma kanda, upasana kanda, jnana kanda, all the thing was already there. But Adi Shankar saw that the people of Kali Yuga were messing up everything. So he said, okay, the Brahmanas are not doing their duty. We don't have qualified Brahmanas already at the times of Adi Shankar. We don't have qualified Brahmanas, so let's see if someone is really dedicated to spirituality and religion, and transcendental knowledge, then let them become gurus. Before Adi Shankar, a guru could only be a grihastha brahmana, because the Shastras speak of the 7 mothers of a human being, including the wife of the guru. So if the guru is a sannyasi, I don't think that he has a wife. So Adi Shankar introduced this change, but it was to be a temporary change because there were no qualified brahmanas to take up the job. And instead of the Gurukula, Adi Shankar created the concept of the mat. The mat is not a monastery in the Abrahamic sense, but unfortunately many people have confused the two and still do. Anyway, so the mat was supposed to be a place that functioned as a Gurukula, where brahmacharis would learn from the guru, and the guru could be a sannyasi, but the guru could only teach about the Vedanta. In Vedic times, the original system was that the guru, in his Gurukula, the Brahmana Grihastha guru, would teach everything, would teach all the Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. That is not appropriate for a sannyasi. So when Adi Shankar started the system of the Mata and the sannyasis as gurus, he said, okay, you can be guru, but you can only teach moksha. You can only teach Vedanta. You can only teach Shastra. Those Shastras which speak of moksha, which basically means the Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta, and Upanishads. Nothing else. The sannyasi guru should not teach about artha and kama, especially kama, which was normal in the time of Adi Shankar. We remember Adi Shankar when he went to this Sarada temple, I think it was in Kashmir, that he had this debate with the local pandit, the local guru, Brahmana guru, and the wife of this Brahmana guru was requested to be the judge, to decide which one was the winner in the debate. Of course, that was an embarrassing position, but it's okay. At that time, it was not considered that women owe their first and foremost and sole worship to the husband. If the husband was wrong, the husband was wrong. So, anyway, but at some point, the question was raised that Adi Shankar, because he had gone directly from brahmacharya to sannyas, he could not actually teach the whole Vedas. He could not be a guru because he could not teach all the Vedas. So, what did Adi Shankar do? He didn't say, no, we are not interested in the rest of the Vedas, but he actually went into samadhi and entered the body of a recently deceased king, who was obviously a grihastha, was not a sannyasi, and for some time enjoyed whatever kingly pleasures can be there in the kama and artha categories that were not the appropriate field for sannyasis, but were totally appropriate field of religious and spiritual experience for a kshatriya grihastha. So then Adi Shankar came back, left the king's body, which died the second time, and returned to his own body, and he finished the debate and was successful. So this is to confirm again that there was a different level of engagement in the teaching and the learning and applying of knowledge, but that was not established on the basis of if someone is religious or not, if someone is of the priest caste or not. No, it was based on the varna, the position in the varna, which is guna and karma, and the position in the ashram, whether brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyas. So, even when Adi Shankar reformed the Indian society, the Indian system, still he had very clear, ideas about what a sannyasi is supposed to do. Now, again, of course, if you see sannyasis, traveling first class and becoming politicians and prime ministers and maybe chief ministers or whatever, we know that something is confused, something is wrong, because there are no qualified people who are in the proper varna and ashram to take up that position, which shows that the degradation of society has become very bad. Okay, let's go back to the Babas, the idea of the Baba. Oh, by the way, the sannyasi is called Swami in general. Tell. You wanted to ask something?
No, no, yeah, I was about to tell that we'll go to that Baba.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah. Going back to the Babas, because most people confuse Baba and Swami. Like, for example, a few days ago on Saraswati Puja, I had the misfortune to have to be invited to a meeting with the so-called Swami Baba. I don't know, a famous pilot Baba, pilot Swami, who was obnoxious to say the least. Anyway, so a Swami cannot be a Baba. A Swami is the title that is given to the sannyasis. Sometimes Swami Maharaj, okay, but the Swami means someone is a sannyasi. Now, because also the sannyasa ashram, and even among the followers of Adi Shankar, had become disgraced to a high point. So Swamis were generally very arrogant, and they took advantage of the position to remain ignorant and still teach, because they the tendency of the degraded people is to try to get all rights and no duties, while the symptom of a good person is someone who's taking all the duties and don't demand rights. If you see someone who is trying to get the rights of different positions and avoids all the duties of all positions, that's not a good sign. So, usually these frauds, like we have seen lots of people like that, who even actually take sannyas to get better material facilities, to get better self-gratification, to get better rooms in the ashram, in the mats, to get, everybody is doing pranam to them, and everybody is giving them very good food, best food, the food that is not given to the other devotees, to the other people. They have the most comfortable beds, the most comfortable places in cars, most comfortable places in airplanes. They get cooks who actually cook only for them. They get personal servants, they get masseurs who give massage. Some famous people, sannyasis, that we don't mention any organization, but they had women masseurs, giving massage to them, They have, personal servant is washing their clothes and, carrying their luggage. They have lots of luggage. At some point in the same organization we are talking about, that will not be named, the ambition of a sannyasi was 3S, Sony Seiko Samsonite. That was in the 70s and 80s, when there was still no laptops and and Android phones, but Sony Seiko Samsonite, if a sannyasi had those, he was in good standing. And the same way, the sannyasi would have disciples and tell disciples arrange their marriage. Deciding who will marry who. And so on and so forth. So this tendency was already there at some levels, not everybody the same, of course, but was already in some level around the times of Chaitanya, for example. And this is why already there is a quote, in Kali Yuga 5 things are forbidden, and one of these is taking sannyas. I don't know, everybody is taking sannyas anyway. Sannyasis are saying that. So it's funny. So we just take the idea, sannyasi, taking sannyas in the Kali Yuga is not a real thing. It's just, a fashion statement to say, okay, I'm not interested in marrying, which is, okay, already something. But at that time, Chaitanya didn't give sannyasa initiation to anyone. Actually, didn't give initiation to anyone. The only people who were given initiation in the line of Chaitanya were Nityananda and Advaita. Advaita and Nityananda were both grihastas, Brahmana grihastas. Even if Nityananda was an avadhuta, means didn't care about social conventions, but still he had 2 wives. And one of the 2 wives became the next Diksha Guru for the entire Gaudiya Vaishnava movement until Narottama and company. But, what kind of Varnashrama position the followers and of Chaitanya would take? Chaitanya is quoted to have said, Naham Varni na grihapatir na manasta yatirva. I am not a brahmachari, I'm not a grihasta, I'm not a vanaprastha, I'm not a sannyasi. Kintu pradyam, but I am the dasa dasa nudasa. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Radha Krishna. So this immediately says why at the time of Chaitanya and until Bhakti Vinod and Bhakti Siddhanta, there were no sannyasis in the Gaudiya Vaishnava movement. They were all Babajis. They were all Baba. A Baba is someone who very humbly doesn't take any social position, which was the original idea of a sannyasi. Now, a sannyasi, now today, we think a sannyasi is someone who's dressed in saffron or red, but that could be even very, stylish and silk and, with, golden, ornaments and stylish cut for the kurta, and everything. That's not what a sannyasi was supposed to wear. Sannyasi was supposed to do, like Sukadeva Goswami says in the beginning of the Bhagavata Purana, was supposed to wear a kopina, a loincloth, just a small piece of cloth, just to cover the middle part of the body, by using a rag discarded in the street, rag picker. Sannyasi was supposed to be a rag picker, and just taking one piece of cloth, what today we can call like a gamcha, for example. Gamcha is that type of size for a loincloth. And just using that for basic basic apparel, because otherwise a sannyasi who was not, was not supposed to go around the villages too much, he was also going naked. Like a naked yogi was not particularly strange, but the problem is that with the Abrahamic influence of Islam and Victorian, Christianity and politics, nudity came to be considered as a disgrace, as disgraceful. So someone was going around naked was a degraded person, a poor person that didn't have the money for clothing and didn't have the decency to cover the body. But there was no such idea in the Hindu Vedic society, because the body was not considered indecent, as we can see in a lot of depictions, even the deities depictions, especially in South India where the Muslim influence was less. So we can see the deities images wearing a lot of jewelry, but very little clothing. And the little clothing they were wearing was very thin, because the Vedic culture, the Vedic society celebrates nature, celebrates the body. So the Babas who were around until the 1800s, 1900s, some are still today, were mostly followers of the Bhakti movements, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnavism and everything. And they were not sannyasis specifically. They didn't care. They were more in the category of avadutas. They could have a female companion or not, that was not the point. If they had a female companion, like the Bowls, for example, in the Bowl tradition in Bengal, which is Gaudiya, Gaudiya means Bengali. These Babas had also accepted women in the movement, but their relationship with their female companions were extremely spiritual, were not ordinary, mundane, lusty relationships. So the Baba is not a swami, it's not a sannyasi. Then we have the concept of sadhu. Now sadhu is more appropriate as a general description. The feminine form of sadhu is sadhvi, just like the feminine form of sannyasi is sannyasini. Now again, as in all things related to women in the Vedic society, women were not obliged, required to do austerities as brahmacharinis or sannyasinis, but they were not forbidden from. It's not that women could not become, enter brahmacharya, could not enter sannyas, they could not be sadhus or sadhvis. They could, definitely. And if they did, they were extremely respected because they did it spontaneously without being required. It was something more than normal, something better than normal. So the sadhu is someone more similar to the idea of Baba, but could be whatever, could be a sannyasi, could be a grihasta, could be vanaprastha, could be brahmachari, could be a brahmana, could be Kshatriya, Vaishya, even a Shudra can be a sadhu. Because a sadhu just leaves all material identifications and attachments. So this is the equivalent of the Brahmana, which means Brahmajana, one who behaves, knows Brahman and behaves as Brahman, meaning no material identifications, no material attachments. And the sannyasi, the same. Sannyasi means a renounced person who has given up. Sannyas means that is a person who is identifying with the transcendental level only, with the Atman. And that's why sannyasis in the Shankara line are supposed only to study and teach Vedanta. So only the purely transcendental level that is giving up all the material identification, especially identification with the gross material body, with the form and birth and caste and race and gender and everything. This is a sannyas. If someone who is dressed as a sannyasi or sadhu or baba shows the shows himself to have any level of material identification with the gross physical body, that's the alarm bell. That person is a fake. Because that's the only thing they're not supposed to do. A sadhu can do a lot of other things, but definitely is not supposed or allowed to function on the basis of gross material physical identification with the body, either about himself or about other people. So here we have the idea of sexual morality. Why a sannyasi should not engage in sexual activities? Because these are based on some level of identification with the material body, with the physical body. Therefore, there is a distinction between men and women, about beautiful women and ugly women, or old and young, and that is based on the material identification with the gross physical body, which is a no-no for all sannyasis, sadhus, and so on, babas as well. Okay, so these are these various definitions. Then a sadhu is a general definition. Anyone can be a sadhu. Sometimes babas are called sadhus, sometimes sadhus are called baba. Okay, it's okay. The last definition that we need to clarify is the definition of guru. Lots of people confuse the idea of guru with the idea of sadhu or swami or baba or in general with a social position that is defined by a spiritual or religious interest and occupation. This is wrong, is bad. A guru is, according to the wonderful explanation of Adi Shankar, is a person who has realized, who is expert, who knows very well, he has attained perfection in the subject that he teaches, and is only interested in the benefit of the disciple. So, a person who is just delivering a message in the parampara is not a guru. A person who is interested in the benefit of the organization and not of the disciple is not a guru. A person who does not even know the names of his disciples, what to speak of what they do, what problems they have, what level of realization they have, is not a guru. So, the number of gurus that circulate around is immediately downsized. There are not many gurus going around. Yes. Tell.
Yeah, that's true. Like, if we put this criteria that guru should know his disciple, then many of the gurus.
They have no idea. Actually, these people don't have disciples, they have customers. This is why most so-called gurus don't tell their so-called disciples unpleasant truths. Let's say, for example, yoga gurus. We are not going to mention any names, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Yoga, the first two angas of yogas are yama and niyama. So, the first screening passage is to find out if a yoga guru is telling people about becoming vegetarian or not. Because that's the basic yama niyama. That's ahimsa and saucham and tapas. Without, if he doesn't tell you about becoming a vegetarian, he is not a guru. He's not a yoga guru. He's a gymnastic guru. Okay, he's teaching, physical fitness. Okay. But that's not a guru. That could be a teacher in the general sense, because in the Western system, the Western society, mainstream society, a teacher has zero responsibility. A teacher is a Shudra who is paid by the government or by the management of the school to tell the pupils or the students what the government or the school management want him to say. And he has zero responsibility about the actual development of the students. If the student fails, it's a student's fault. And the level of teaching is so low that, especially in the United States, it seems that 75% of the people who go through the government school system are actually unable to read or write. And in India, we are not much better placed, because in order even to pass the exams set by the school itself, the students have to go to tuition. They have, the families, the parents have to, pay extra money to tuition teachers just to get to the point of, sitting for passing the exam that the school has established, which is, even worse than the United States, because, at least, even if you don't read or write, you just pass the test and, you get out of the school. The families of, the slow learning students are not required to spend, huge amount of money just to finish the compulsory school. So this is, and of course there are dropouts, but that's a different thing. So this is the point of the guru. Guru needs to be able to, needs to show that he has realized and he's practicing what he teaches. Not just someone who's delivering, a course as per government or organization or, guidelines. No, teachers should be responsible, personally responsible. And of course, this means that he is interested in the benefit of the disciples, so he will teach properly. Not only he has the proper knowledge, but he also gives it properly, which means in a personalized manner. Because not all the students are same. This is why traditionally in the Vedic system, the Gurukul, the guru was first observing the children in the stage, in the period of training that was about Samanya Dharma, the Dharma for everyone. And this was also included in the Shudras, because some children, were inevitably in the category of Shudras as per guna and karma, even if they were born in higher families. So the Gurukul, everybody was going to the Gurukul. And the first years, when they were still very young, usually from 5 to 10 years old, they were just taught the Samanya Dharma, the Dharmic principles that are required for all the members of the Varna system. The Shudras are still in the Varna system. There was no Dalit class in the Vedic system. There is no Dalit. There is no untouchables, no... in fact, these people were called Avarnis because they were not in the Varna system. They did not live in the Varna communities, in the Arya settlements, in the Nagars. They usually lived in their own settlements in the forest because they didn't want to follow the basic principles of hygiene and compassion. So, they could be free to live in whatever way they wanted, but not among civilized people. This is a basic principle that is not a discrimination. It's not, racism or exploitation or mistreatment or slavery or anything, because the Avarnis did not live in the Arya settlements. That's very simple. They were very free to stay wherever they wanted, jungle, hilltops, beaches, wherever they want, but not in the Arya settlements. So the cleaning was done by the Shudras, not by the Dalits. There were no slaves in the Varna system because the Shudras were not slaves. The Shudras were employees who lived in the same house of the employer, but as family members. They ate the same food. They, had more or less the same, way of living. They were required to wash regularly. They were required to be vegetarian. They were required, all the Shudras were required to do that, and they knew that after cleaning something dirty, they had to take bath and change their clothes. And they were not untouchables because the Shudra lived in the house of the employer and, worked in the kitchen, not with the fire, but they clean the kitchen. So, what untouchable cannot clean the kitchen? Shudras were distributing water. That was a typical Shudra job. Some Shudras were employed, so they lived in the family, but they could leave the family of the employer, and change employer, or they could become totally independent. That was only their choice. They were never sold to someone else. So, they were just leaving one employer, although the Dharma Shastra is clearly saying that the Shudra servant who leaves his employer in a difficult situation is actually committing a sin, because an employee should not, leave the boat when there is a storm, because that's what the rats do, not, what your family members do. And they could become totally independent, as for example, these people, these Shudras who were distributing water in the streets. So now the main symptom of an outcast, a Dalit, untouchable, is that they cannot touch water. Because why? Because they don't follow the hygienic practices. They don't wash. They don't know about hygiene, or they don't care about hygiene. So they cannot touch the water that other people are going to drink or use, because they will make it dirty. They will make it contaminated. Unhealthy. So if a Shudra selling water in the street, distributing water in the street is a Shudra job, of course the Shudras are not Dalits, are not untouchable. Okay. So the idea that Shudra was taught in the Gurukul, is normal. Now, the Guru in the Gurukul was watching all the children very carefully to understand which type of guna and karma they had, each personally, individually. So, at about 10 years of age, that was the first diksha, the beginning of studies that is still a samskara today, So in the beginning of studies is not the day when the child enters in the Gurukul, but it's a day when the Guru decides that, okay, now I'm sure that this child has these tendencies, these interests, these capabilities, this potential, so he's going to start studying for his future varna, for his future professional and social occupation. So each child was given one varna, was given one, first access to the varna system, and the children were not interested or capable of getting trained for the three higher varnas, were just left free. Means, okay, you learn whatever you could learn, now you can go home, go home and do whatever you want to do. Your family will allow you to do, your potential will allow you to do, and so on. So they didn't get the sacred thread, the upavita. The beginning of the study was a moment when the brahmachari was given the upavita, the sacred thread. And each child was trained according to the particular class of a category of guna and karma. Therefore, the Upavita was of 3 different types. The Vaishya sacred thread has only had 3 threads, 3 strings. The Kshatriya had 6, all united, twisted together, and the Brahmana had 9. So immediately you could see what kind of training and rules and duties each student was supposed to get trained to. That was a very clear differentiation. Now, each student was trained in the specific duties of their varna, according to the possibilities of the guru, because the guru can only teach, as far as he has personally realized the subject and can be effective in teaching. Like, for example, we see Dronacharya was not a Sadguru. He was a teacher of martial arts. He was still a guru, he was still a teacher, but he could only teach martial arts. Now, many people confuse the general idea of guru, who could be, just a teacher of basic reading, writing, and maths and everything, with the idea of Sadguru. Sadguru means a transcendental guru, the guru who is teaching transcendental subjects, Sat, eternal, transcendental. And this is what Adi Shankar told his sannyasi disciples to do. So, the sannyasi guru in the Mata system is supposed to be a Sat guru, not teaching, martial arts or whatever, dance or whatever. He has to teach only as a Sat guru. Now, if guru is difficult to find, a Sat guru is even more difficult, because a Brahmana, sannyasi or sadhu, as we said before, is supposed, required, to demonstrate that he has overcome the conditioning and the ignorance. The root of all ignorance is the identification with the gross physical body and attachment to the possession, belonging, gratification of the gross physical body. Now, if this should already be a Brahmana, a sadhu or a sannyasi, a sannyasi guru is supposed to be one who has not only realized that and demonstrating it with his own personal example, but is also able to teach it to others for the benefit of everyone, for the benefit of all the students. And again, if it's difficult to find a genuine guru, it's more difficult to find a genuine Sadguru. So, we are in a bad situation. Now, what I have been observing in these last few years, the situation has increasingly gone worse, because the BJP and RSS was supposed to, establish Dharma. And Dharma can be established, Dharma and Vidya cannot be separated, and Dharma can be established only through the proper knowledge of the Shastra. Knowledge and understanding. Now, before the BJP went to power, they were saying, okay, we study the Shastra, we practice the Shastras after we go to power. because now we cannot do it because we need to go to power. We need to stop the bad people. Okay, they went to power and still they're not doing it. In fact, what is happening is that lots of people in the Hindutva movement have started to teach what they call dharma, but without any basis in the Shastra, and in fact against the actual meaning of the Shastras. So they have their own personal opinions on what, especially Bhagavad Gita. I am sick and tired of reading, posting of people that badly misquote Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is the simplest text. How can you misquote the Bhagavad Gita? If you misquote the Rig Veda, okay, I understand. Yeah, it's not easy. If you misquote the other Shastras, okay, yeah, well, that's not so important. But if you misquote the Bhagavad Gita, it's really something bad. So, that's very discouraging, and let's see if I will continue with the social media or not. Maybe not. But this is what is happening. That the actual meaning of Dharma and Vidya is is being totally forgotten by the leaders, by the teachers. And this is very bad. So, and the Babas, unfortunately, this is, in fact, supported by a Kali Yuga tendency. There are descriptions of what will happen in Kali Yuga, in the Bhagavata Purana. Well, Kali Yuga already started when the Bhagavata Purana was written. But, it would get worse. Because when the Bhagavata Purana was written together with the other texts that were put in writing by Vedavyasa and his disciples, it was about 5,000 years ago. Kali Yuga was just started. But the description of what the Kali Yuga will become is frightening, because it's not yet 100%, but we have seen that it has become much worse, in more recent times. It's actually accelerating, and this is very worrisome. But what we find in Kali Yuga, that everybody will become Shudra or even less than Shudra, as per qualifications. And what Shudras want? They want immediate material benefits. This is why they cannot they cannot be responsible for others, because they just want immediate material benefits. So we see lots of Hindu Shudras or Western Shudras going to degraded people and calling degraded people gurus, because they hope they're going to get some material benefit. Like, for example, we see how many Hindutva activists are, followers of Shirdi Sai Baba. And is that a guru? No, he's just a Baba, and a Muslim Baba, on top. That became famous because people went there and they paid pranam, they gave some money, and they got some material blessings, in the sense, the first one, I think it was a Hindu little a kinglet of somewhere, who went to the Shirdi Sai Baba, and became to offer homage and everything. And finally he got a son, that he wanted to get a son. That's also another big headache. But finally he got a son by the time that he had gone to see this Shirdi Baba. So the Shirdi Sai Baba became a great Hindu saint and guru. He never said anything about, he never taught anything about the Shastras or Dharma or Vidya or anything. He was just sitting there and saying, okay, blessing, blessing, Ashirvad, Ashirvad, And people were happy because, they attributed their good luck to the blessings of the Shirdi Sai Baba. And this is going on with practically, all the Babas and so-called gurus that go around. Like, mentioning about this Baba who has miraculous powers, who can read the minds of people, who knows everything about everyone, and solve all the problems, give all the remedies. That's not guru. That's just a business based on consultancy. People go to him and give money because they're not getting the blessings for free. And they get some mantra, some puja, some tabits, which tabits is also a Muslim word, by the way. Because in Islam there is a big tradition of occult magic and stuff. So that's not a Baba, that's not a guru, that's not a sadhu. He can go around with that name. He can be called that by his followers or customers or whatever. But that is definitely not someone who is doing anything spiritual or transcendental. So, and but unfortunately, looks like most people are afraid of evolving to more genuine, more spiritual level. So they don't. Any question about the elaboration?
No.
I think I was a bit what to say, outspoken, but truth is truth. It is. Tell.
Yeah, true. Like truth should be spoken.
Yeah. In fact, there is a saying, Satyam Bruyat Priyam Bruyat. Okay. Which means that truth should be spoken in a pleasant manner. But we have to understand what Priya means and what Satya means. Because you cannot tell the truth and be pleasing to someone who is in a very bad condition. Let's say that one is is very sick and has a terminal cancer. Okay, how can you give the truth in a pleasant manner? This guy doesn't want to die, doesn't want to have the cancer, so how are you going to tell the pleasant truth? It's impossible. So the idea of priyam, pleasing, pleasant, depends on the person who hears, not on the person who speaks. If the person who hears the truth is very attached to degradation and, bad things and, dangerous, toxic things. It doesn't matter how much, cream you put and sugar you put on the truth. It's not going to take it as a pleasant truth. So, without truth there is no more dharma. You may remember when Maharaj Parikshit meets the Kali Purusha in the Bhagavata Purana, beginning of the Bhagavata Purana. And he sees a cow and a bull, which are the personifications of Bhumi, Mother Earth, and Dharma, the eternal, the actual Sanatana Dharma, the ethics and which supports the universe. And Dharma, the bull Dharma, is standing on one leg only because this Shudra dressed as a king, which is a politician and bureaucrat. That's basically the definition of a Shudra dressed as a king. Has already cut 3 of the legs, which are already cut: the self-control, tapas, self-regulation. Already cut social, which means cleanliness, purity. Already cut daya, which means compassion, non-violence. The only leg that is left to dharma is satyam, truthfulness. You cut the last leg of dharma, and you don't have dharma anymore. It doesn't stand. So, this is the point. So, when we find babas, swamis, gurus, or leaders in general, religious leaders, priests, religious people who present adharma as dharma out of ignorance, we know we are in a bad situation. So, that's a sad note, but what to do? This is where we are. Okay, so any other question, observation?
So why these days, these kind of Baba become so popular? Is it because people are so much materially engrossed, they don't see anything beyond, and they just want material happiness and blessings and all those things?
Exactly.
How come we ended up in this situation? We were supposed to be the pioneers of spirituality and all that. We had those riches. We produced so many rishis. How come we stand here now?
Okay, short answer and long answer. The short
If you think this needs to be elaborated more, probably we can take this.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because the short answer is Kali Yuga. Okay, because that's a very short answer. But there are plans, there are movements, there are things that have been happening within the Kali Yuga that we can still address. We still have the possibility to address, but the window of opportunity is closing. We don't have much time left. Actually, we don't even have 5 years. It's, many people have been talking about 2025, 24, 25. The official number, the official time frame established by the Asura is 2030, but I think that already the window of opportunity is closing now, and by 2024, things are going to be already decided. The window will close and will be nailed in place without the opportunity to move, because there is a general plan by the Asuras. So we can keep the plan of the Asuras for the next time because it's a long and complex elaboration. But it can be verified. Just go. Now we are still lucky because we still have the internet and a lot of free information that if we are good enough, intelligent enough, expert enough, we can find the proper information. We can dig deep enough, we can verify, cross-verify, and we can come to our own conclusions. We don't need to follow any theory. We don't want to be conspiracy theorists. We just want to see the actual objective, verifiable information, which is, admittedly, it's not the first stuff that comes on the Google search engine. If you if you go on Wikipedia, you're not going to find all the proper information. You just find the official version of things. Google search engine, Wikipedia. These are instruments of the system. But still, we have the opportunity, if we dig carefully enough, we can find public information, not theories, just verifiable information that will give us, food for thought. We can think and we can start to see the bigger picture. I'll prepare a presentation on that so that we can do it next time. But it has to be done very carefully because these people are very powerful, and they are not shy in using censorship and sabotage and and stuff. So we need to be careful. So, but okay, we can still say things. People can get the idea and go to see where they can be found. But in general, short answer is Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, the bad people become more powerful. And it's going to get worse. Unfortunately. But, as Krishna, we see, it's very interesting to see the Bhagavad Gita context. Krishna clearly tells Arjuna, I am time, Kala's me. I am Kala, the time. And I have come to engage, to, deal with all these people. From all the people that are on the battlefield now, before the battle starts, only you, the Pandavas, will survive. So it's the Battle of Kurukshetra was not, a short affair in which the bad people were very quickly put to, a position, when they became harmless. And Krishna was there, Arjuna was there, still it's not that, in the first day, all the bad people were defeated and accepted defeat and said, oh, sorry, sorry. Now all glory is to Krishna, all glory is to Dharma, all glory is to the Pandavas. No. Even after the end of the Kurukshetra, even, Ashwatthama went after the children, even the unborn children. The Pandavas and 2 or 3 other people were still alive. Not many. So it's not that Yudhishthira had a very very easy job. And after, even when the situation after the war of Kurukshetra became more or less settled, the Kali Yuga started in style, in a big style. So, to all the people who are dreaming the golden age is coming, golden age of Dharma is coming, we establish the Hindu Rashtra, the Dharma Rashtra. It's not happening. This is not how we do it. So we talk about that next time. We can still do a lot, because, as Krishna says in Gita, every step on this journey is valuable. Nothing is ever lost. Nothing is ever lost. But this, we have to see things on a larger scale, of more lifetimes, a longer time period, which is not in our lifetime. It's not happening. Anyway, thanks for your giving me the opportunity. And
Thanks
if you
for
want,
giving your
please
valuable time.
please write down any questions about the subject, so that we can address all the questions.
Yeah, sure.
Jai. Okay,
Okay.
then if it is all for today,
Yeah,
perfect. So Jai Jagannath, we'll talk again.
yeah. Okay. Jai Jagannatha.